Alright, I thought I'd do a quick video on UHMW install since I'm into it a little bit now. Had pretty cold temperatures in the 30s and low 40s, and so I went and picked one of these up, Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever it was. Works really well. It's got a low and then high. You can adjustable flame. Does freeze up the tank pretty quick if you use it on high, but it warms up this little shop really well. I just leave windows open and move some air as I'm running it in here. So I got these completed and in, essentially. Ended up with that. Skid plate comes back, you know, pump sticks out about here, so I guess. Anyway, so I don't know, I think you can see where I hit some rocks and in the river. You know, I just got hung up, and try and get a good picture of that, but you can see it gouges it out really. That's pretty deep for a gouge. You know, you can see this chunk here. So, you know, same up here. This is on the 3/8 metal. But anyway, so prepping took a little longer because I wanted to mark out my holes, which I've got drilled and countersunk, and I'm just cleaning up those holes right now because there's plastic hanging off and sharp edges on the top of the countersink. So just taking my knife and just taking that sharp edge off, and I think that'll be good. I'm trying to get the heads where they're sunk at least lower than the plastic, you know, not too far, because I want to make sure I have plenty of holding plastic there on the head, but obviously want the head below it so the heads don't catch. Then you got that sharp edge, you know, if something's rolling across it, just take that off, and you end up with little pieces of plastic still connected from the countersink anyway. So once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and rough this up and do the same with the bottom of the plastic, you know, and go ahead and proceed with the install. But one of the things that took a long time was just simply going underneath the boat and figuring out the distances between things, especially back here by the intake, you know, figuring out on the inside, you know, where I'm in the clear, especially back here, is there's really not much room. So, you know, you're coming up under here, making sure your bolts are going to clear where it's bolted back in here, you know. So, and then essentially where we're going to be here, you know, what I ended up doing was basically on the perimeter 1 inch from the edge. You know, I tried kind of, you know, the instructions from Wattcraft are really minimal. They do tell you distances between bolts. A little bit hard to decipher. At one point they say on these center bolts 6-inch centers, and then you look at the pattern, it's like, well, I think they meant 6-inch front to back centers going down the middle, and then it's like 3-inch in the front, 4-inch along the sides, 2-inch around the intake and back here. So pretty much followed those instructions. You just have to, you know, they don't tell you how far from the edge you want to be of the UHMW, and I just figured, well, 1 inch seems reasonable. So that's what I went with. And, you know, on this edge, the engine bear is 2 inches in, so 1 inch puts you right, you know, between this edge and the engine bear. And then of course I got, you know, my engine mounts have cross, you know, carriages that go across. And I've got room underneath them to get a bolt, you know, nut and stuff. So I'm just gonna, you know, as I go along, I have to figure out what the best length is for different places. But essentially, all the way up here, it's pretty much in the clear until you get to this, on the inside from here forward, there's a, oh, what the heck you call it? It's just a 1/4 inch piece standing up, going up the middle. So, you know, that's one thing you had to figure out is where all these bolts are going to go to clear. And right here is where that is. So I got a piece in the boat, I got a piece in the middle. But then I also have a bulkhead. These right here aren't exactly 6 inch, they're like 5 1/4 or whatever. These are all 6 inch. You kind of see where you start kind of running out of room. You got 3 going across here, they're pretty close together all the way back, so I just evenly spaced them. But you have these 2 rows here coming forward, and then 3 inch in the front. And other than where the bulkhead is, this is all clear in the boat. So I don't know, it'll be interesting. Hopefully, you know, my calculations are right. One of the places I had to figure out was, you know, my cross brace comes across right here for the engine somewhere. So these will probably be underneath it a little bit. I think these were clearing, but I had more height in the front engine carriage, and I just decided to put one in the middle there. And I haven't pre-drilled these because I want to, when I get started, I want to drill one and just to verify, yeah, I'm in the clear. Pretty sure I'd be okay to drill them, but just wanted to do that in the beginning. It's not that big a deal to drill that many holes, but these are every 2 inches, and these are like a 1 1/4 is what I ended up with from this inside edge, which is pretty much up against the grate. And so yeah, about 1 1/4 here. But essentially, I don't know, I've done most of these, but let's see. You can kind of see right here, got this sharp edge and these little pieces of plastic kind of hanging there. You know, it's just what's left over. So I'm just going through and cutting off that edge like that. Not a big deal, just clean it up. And there's some on the bottom as well from drilling through. You know, I used a 1/4 inch drill bit. So that thing's hanging on. Oh, there it is. So anyway, I'll turn it over and get those edges, or get those little chunks, just like this right here. You can see that little piece. So I'll just get those off. No big deal, just didn't want pieces of crap in there. So clean them up. I'm going to scuff this up, acetone it. You know, probably heat the plastic up a bit. Do the same with the bottom of the boat. Then I'll put the sealant on and set the plastic on. I've still got the straps in place, so I'm going to go ahead and start in the center back and move my way forward on the center. I'll probably leave the front loose, and once I'm done with the center, then I'll go ahead and move to the outside, and using the straps and those 2x4s to just pull it in tight and hold it as I drill and tap and put the bolts in with the sealant. So I'm going to go ahead and use these bits here for tapping all the holes. I got 2 of them. Hopefully they'll last. I mean, all the 3/8 stuff, which in reality most of it's 3/8. You know, I did a previous video where I tested it. These are really only theoretically for up to a 1/4 inch depth, but they do work. So anyway, a lot of work to go. Get started on it and see how it goes. Alright, so as you can see, lovely. I rubbed up the surface. I went ahead and used a little palm sander with some coarse grit and just went over this enough to give it a dull, rough look, where you can tell, you know, I took off anything that was on the surface that might not stick to, and just brushed it with a rag and some acetone. So I'm going to go ahead and preheat it. Not extremely, just want to get the temperature up, because apparently it expands with heat and contracts as it cools down. So I'm going to preheat the plastic. The hole is already pretty warm, you know, not extremely, but you know, at least up to 75-80 degrees. So I just want the temperatures to be up a bit as I'm putting it on. That way when the plastic basically cools down and shrinks, you know, that's the way the instructions actually tell you to do it. It's to make sure it's warm enough that when it shrinks, it's kind of shrinks on or whatever. At least it's tight, because you know, if you think about it, if the plastic expands as it's warm, you put the bolt in, you know, it's going to actually tighten up when it contracts. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes, but that's the prep anyway. Alright, well, took a while, but finally got it on. So wasn't too bad. Just made sure I went down the center first, all the way up to there, and then I did every other bolt here. I was kind of concerned about running out, and I came down to one extra. That's after I bought a few more. But anyway, so I did like every other one, and I had the 2x4s run along here with 4 or 5 straps on there. Yeah, it's like 4. So once I got down to this point, I went ahead and did these top ones, and then worked these forward, and then finished off the front. So I don't know, it seemed to go pretty well. Although right here is where I busted off that drill tap bit. I was like, man, that was going to be a hard one to get out, so I just abandoned that and put a bolt in next to it. And over here is where I busted a bolt off, and essentially just forgot to thread it and decided to force issue a little bit, and it just busted off the bolt inside the hole. So it's pretty solid too. It went in a little bit, so I just did another bolt next to it. And other than that, I had marked out another row for here, but man, I just really don't think it's necessary. And yeah, I wasn't, you know, I tried to I put sealant in, and the whole point was I thought, well, ultimately I wanted to have a watertight seal around the intake and the outer edges, you know, just so moisture doesn't, or water doesn't get trapped in between them. You know, it sucked down pretty good, you know, without the straps and the 2x4s. Probably would have been quite a bit harder, you know, just to pull down those others. And after you do the centers, you kind of have a row on this side of the bend, and it does pull it down, but it, you know, putting the 2x4s on really helped, just so you can get a straight drill and all that. And I went ahead and pre-drilled all the holes. I wasn't planning on it, but I think it worked out better. And since I bought 2 of those thread taps, tap thread combos, and busted one, so I still had about 1/3 of the job to go after I busted that sucker. So it did most of the job, or at least the majority of it. And I got it under a bind. You just got to be real careful with that. I didn't realize it, but the back of my drill come up against one of the straps, and it just, as it was sinking, I put it in a bind and busted it off. So anyway, I guess I'm content with that. I think it'll hold. It took 2 full tubes of that caulking to put plenty of strips in there, so I felt like it was good enough. I mean, you could probably do more than I did, but I don't know if there's any point. So in these tubes, I was kind of concerned, but it's just a metal outer tube, but otherwise just like a caulking gun. And I've had this stuff since I got the boat kit a couple of years ago, and I've had it open for a few months because I was using it to put the intake on and all that kind of stuff. And every time, and it was kind of thick to start with, probably just because it doesn't have a good seal like this. You actually have to pull the end seal off and then put it in, and then it looks like that inside. But I just take a rubber glove, squirt a little bit out, cut a finger off, put it over there and tape it. And this has held for quite a while. It's pretty solid, but there's probably a little bit in there I can use. So I just did the same with the 3M. This stuff is really slow setup, so I'm not too worried about it. But I don't think I'm gonna have anything else to seal on this. But so I haven't really got underneath and looked at the bolts, but I don't know what the deal was with all those different lengths. I tried to use the longest ones around the intake. I didn't have that many of them, and in that back area. And then for all these up here, I had the majority of what I have was like 3/4 inch. So we'll get up underneath, see what they look like and what kind of nuts to use. I've got lots of crown nuts, and if there's from what I could tell, I put a couple bolts in, looked up in there, and I was thinking, I don't think I'm going to get a seal washer and a crown nut, but maybe. Yeah, I don't know, I'll give it a try, but I'm not sure I'm going to get a crown nut on each one of those. I mean, the crown nut would fit, but not the sealing O-ring, the rubber seal. So I kind of didn't think so. I thought, well, I could just order a bunch more that are 1/4 inch longer, and then I can get, seal washers on and the nut. I think that's what I have to do, because that's about 1/4 inch right there. But that's crown nut alone. If you put those thick sealing washers on there, you're gonna get maybe 2 threads after you tighten it down. So that kind of sucks, but it's like I got one short one around the intake. So definitely gonna put sealing washers on these and nuts. I'll probably just wait till I get the boat back right side up and just see how I looked in the front. Once I went to 1/4 inch, I used the next size down. That's interesting right there. I didn't really, I think I had an issue. Yeah, it looks like that's where the end of the engine bearer is the bulkhead, and I bolted all the way through, but I ended up drilling through a weld and then threading it. Looks like the same right there. So I missed it, the bulkhead, but barely. And let's see over here. Yeah, these are the short little suckers. So basically, they gave me bolts with the kit to get a crown nut on, but the sealing washer's pipe dream. So I don't know. I guess I could replace them all to get a little extra thread. That just sucks. Paid a lot of money for that stupid bolt kit. But man, what a mess with all the drilling. Lots of plastic shavings and aluminum. Anyway, just glad to get that one over and call it a day. So, later. So, just real quick, wanted to mention that this style of bit for the countersink wants to cut off to one side. So it's really not good on this plastic. It may work on something else, metal or wood, but I wouldn't use that. So I think this was the initial one I bought, and this one worked out pretty good. If I had the package for that, I'd let you know which one it is, but I'd say the whole thing's about, well, let's see, ½ inch. Go with inches. Yeah, 0.46. So pretty close to ½ inch. Oh, there we go. Yeah, 0.49. So yeah, ½ inch. I don't know. I suppose there are different ones, but that was a Home Depot thing or whatever. So should be good there. But anyway, that worked well. Some were deeper than others. Yeah, but it was fairly easy to control. It actually worked better if the UHMW was pulled down, because on the 3/8, by the time that tip hit, it was about the right depth. So when I was doing it on the floor and whatnot, I didn't have anything back in it. Probably went a little bit too far. So yeah, if you use something that's not soft, you know, like metal, aluminum plate or whatever behind it, if you don't do it on the boat, I would say that's probably a good idea. I'm not terribly concerned about it, but probably could have had a more even depth. Some of them went in a little too, further than I wanted for sure. But anyway, just want to mention that.